Aha! Well, it's part 30 and it's the final part. Well, at least for the build. I'm sure I'll have to do many modifications to it over the years, but yeah, I might probably won't bother you with those, to be honest. I think I've made anybody who watches these suffer enough. 30 parts, yeah. Anyway, let's get this 30th and final part done. It's going to be pretty straightforward, actually. There's a few things to clean up. We basically need to make all the forms the same size, at least the same width, so that we can kind of center them. Otherwise, they'll look a little bit odd. And I have done that. As you can see, this is basically the control panel. I've added a fancy pants little, whatever you call that, title at the top there. I have set all the forms to a specific width. And I have gone in and basically just selected everything on the form and dragged it into the middle, so that on each form they kind of come in the middle. So yeah, what else do we need to do? Let's have a little look here. We need to remove any of the access controls. So basically at the moment we have all of this. We've got the sort of access object window here, navigator, I don't know what it's called. The thing where you can select all the different parts of the database, basically. You've got the old ribbon up the top here and all of these menus and that, which I don't really want in the one I'm going to use because it's just complicated. It kind of, yeah, it'll baffle me when I just want to use the actual eLiquid log. So I'm going to get rid of them all, and yeah, there's also some things, you know, like all the little controls on the forms themselves to skip forwards and backwards. We want to get rid of all of that. So essentially all that's going to be left is everything that we've added to it and coded into it, and all the functionality will just come from the buttons we put on there. So if there's anything missing, then we shall need to add some buttons. But anyway, the way that I've done this is that I have created let's have a look at it. I have created a little bit of code down here. Where are we? Here. So we've got this public function set form properties, and basically you pass in a delimited list of form names, delimited with a double asterisk. And then it basically splits that out so that it runs this loop for each of those form names. It opens it up in design view because a lot of these things can only be changed in design view. I don't know why, that's just the way Access is. So I just want for each of the forms, which is basically all the forms, I want to set these properties on all of them to the same thing. So auto center no, auto resize, false, border style 0. Loads of things. It basically takes away all of the little bits of Chrome, the navigator buttons, whether it's movable or not, record selectors, blah 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 blah, and the final one here is width, and that's where it sets it to 33 centimeters wide for some unknown reason. Access sizes everything in twips, and there are 567 twips to 1 centimeter, so there's the width. We then save the form and we then close the form. Basically we need to run this once essentially, and it will make all of those form settings to each and every form, and we'll save them. So that really only needs to be done once. The reason why I've put it in a function here rather than going into the design editor of each form and setting them there is because, well, you have to do that for every form and it's pretty tedious, and if you want to change this later or add something to it, you're going to have to do that to every form again, whereas I can just, if I suddenly decide I want the width wider, I can just change it here, rerun the little macro that I've set up just to run this function, and it'll do it all for me. So that is that bit, and if we have a look, there is a little macro that goes along with that, which simply just runs that function, and it passes in the name of each of the forms I want to apply those properties to, delimited by the double asterisk. So that's that bit. So the other thing we need to do is we need to actually get rid of the ribbon, the menus, this thing here. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to create an auto exec macro, which is kind of a special name for a macro, and it will run automatically when the database is opened. And the first thing that this macro does is run this function called jgbooter. And if we have a look at jgbooter, you can see that what it does is it basically hides the it hides the ribbon. It then has to select one of the forms, and it just selects control panel. The reason why it has to do that is because it just has to do that in order for us to hide that sort of this thing here, the object browser window thingy. In order to hide that, we need to select something on it first. So that's all we're doing. We're just selecting a random form, control panel, and then basically we are setting the control panel to hide. So we hide it. So the other thing that I've done is, because that's kind of a one-way street then, once this automatically runs, we won't have access to any of the access bits and pieces, access to access. And rather than me having to close it and reopen it by holding down a modifier key so that it bypasses the auto exec macro, I've just added a button to, so let's find it, actually we can get rid of this. Just added a button to the control panel here, which when you click it, basically just reverses that. So it's going to bring back the ribbon and bring back the little window on the side here with all of the bits and pieces. So let's close that and let's start it again. No, we won't make any changes, everything's done. And let's open that as an auto runner. So there you go. We've just opened it basically. And yeah, the auto exec thing's kicked in. It's removed the ribbon, it's removed all of the toolbars, it's removed the object browser window, it's run our liquid ingredient, it's run our control panel. And if we click this button here, we can get back all of that rubbish if we need to edit something, and we can just run that again to do it again. And that's essentially it, I think. I haven't made any changes to anything else really. I've kind of centered things a little bit. I have put my final data in. I've only added one recipe so far, but this is actually now containing the correct unjiggery pokery mussed around with data that we've been using so far has been corrected and put back to how it was. So all of the ingredients are correct and all of the stock is correct. And yeah, so I've put in a few mixes. I've got one dodgy one there, so we'll delete that. And yeah, so I've put in 3 mixes. We can have a look at the mix. As you can see, everything sort of fits better, it's a bit more centralized, and yeah, so this is actual real data. This is an actual real mix that I did. Well, what's the next thing? Oh, it's finished. Thank for that. Right, well, I think I'll go up top and apologise for this 30-part series. So see you there. Well, there it is. So that's 30 parts. Let's say they average out to 10 minutes apart. That's 5 hours of video to make one Access database, well, sort of front end thing. But it's done, and yeah, it's going to do exactly what I want it to do. Well, I hope. I've only just started using it really, but yeah, it's going to be a lot better than the spreadsheet, and you know, can easily add things to it where necessary. When I started doing this, I really didn't think it would turn out to be quite so long and quite so tedious. Now I know I called it the paint drying series, but that's kind of taken up. I kind of figured it would be, I don't know, maybe 5 parts, 10 parts maximum. Just do a bit of video. Oh, too much detail. But it's been useful in some ways. not many. Well, not many for anybody watching, but it's been quite useful for me. Firstly, to sort of get back into the habit of making videos. I thought, and kind of the reason I pushed myself to do it was to practice editing, but in fact I've got really, really good at one type of editing. Me editing out it hasn't really helped with any other editing, to be honest, because it's all the same type of thing. It's just some too much detail. I promise that I will never, ever, ever, ever make a video of me coding something in such detail. Well, just a lot more editing, I think. It's still quite tricky to find the line between something that's too short and just glosses over everything and you don't really see what's going on, and something which is really boring. Definitely went for the really boring this time around. But it's done. And I can't tell you how happy I am that that's done. I really, really, really was getting bored of that. So that means I can move on to something a lot more interesting. And the thing is that whilst I've been knocking out these videos there of making an e-liquid log, there's all sorts of things been piling up that will be hopefully slightly more interesting. Yeah, they're coming. Oh, too much detail.